Okay, now I'm going to be demonstrating some lumbar techniques. And so again, I always like to start by treating the myofascia. And so I like to just, make sure, and as I'm doing just some soft tissue, another advantage of just doing soft tissue on people is, for one, it gets you comfortable with the feel for them. It gets them comfortable with the feel for you. You can get that feedback from them. And again, so I'm always looking at their face because I always say mouths can lie, but faces can't. So again, let me know if my pressure is too much or if you want me to push a little bit harder. And so I'm really just kind of working on the contralateral side, trying to stretch out those paravertebral muscles. Okay, but then I will come out a little bit further to where that quadratus lumborum muscle is right over here. Now you can get a little bit of a stretch on it when you're trying to come out right over here, but sometimes that QL, notably if they have depressed ribs with it, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to try to get enough tension on it. So what I will do with that is I'm going to actually hold the rib steady, and then I'm going to try to use the pelvis to kind of, and so one way that we can really engage that QL is when we're trying to lift the pelvis up, kind of shrugging it up towards the ear. So what I'm going to have you do, Austin, is I'm going to try to have you shrug up that left hip towards your left ear. Okay, so go ahead and just do that a little bit there and relax. And you don't have to lift it off the table, just kind of try to lift it up towards your side there. So a little bit less pressure, that's enough right there, just enough that you kind of engage it and relax. Okay, and then I can stretch it down over here and stretch those ribs up over here. Sometimes you'll actually articulate the 11th or 12th rib just as you try to do that, but it gets a very good stretch on that QL, which is a very common area of somatic dysfunction that we'll see of people complaining with back or pelvic kind of pain back over here. All right, now I'm going to be demonstrating the lumbar roll, which we can use for both muscle energy as well as HVLA, high velocity, low amplitude thrusting kind of techniques. And so I'm always going to have him with the rotated side up. I found that if we're doing more of a rotation based kind of emphasis, then I find that keeping the rotated side up is going to work a little bit better. And so in this case here, I have him laying on his left side. Okay, so he is, so that means whatever side it is, it's going to be rotated right. So regardless of whether it's neutral or non-neutral, we know it's rotated right if he's laying in this position right over here. Okay, you can just relax your arm here. Okay, I'm just feeling for the area of dysfunction. Okay, so, let's go to that high yield L5S1 kind of area right over here. Okay, so that L5 segment right over here, let's say that it's neutral. Okay, it's so that we're going to say it's side bent left, rotated right in this situation here. So with my cephalad hand, I'm kind of monitoring over that transverse process right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring his legs up. Okay, I'm going to flex them up just a little bit before neutral, and then I'm going to side bend it a little bit over here to help lock out that lower pole in the neutral again. So he was side bent left, rotated right. So this helps side bend the lower pole to the right. And I'm going to bring it back down over here, just helps the fascia. Straighten your bottom leg out for me now, okay? And then I'm going to tuck him right down over here, so it's helped a little bit, just kind of lock it out to the segment. Now I'm going to switch my fingers, but still monitoring over that same segment with his bottom arm over here. A lot of times I'll tell him, grab my shoulder for me, okay? And that way I can just grab his elbow. So I'm grabbing just above his elbow. Okay, I got you, relax. I'm going to take a step towards his head, which is going to further side bend him over in the direction that we need to. And then I'm going to stand up with it right here, which is going to rotate him down to that level. So I make sure I rotate him to the point that I get it to that point. So I got him kind of pretzeled up in that position. To get extra leverage on the upper body, what I have him do is grab your forearm and grab your forearm. Okay, so he kind of locks that right over here, not too rigid. And give me a little bit of slack so I can get my arm underneath there. And so now I'm monitoring over here and here. I have more of the fleshy part of my forearm resting on his rib cage over here, so it shouldn't hurt, but you let me know if it does. And then I have my other fleshy part of my forearm in the gluteal mass, not resting over the greater trochanter, not elbowing down. That's not going to be comfortable. Okay, so now I have good shearing kind of force both ways here. So I want to kind of take up the slack, get him right to the barrier as much as I can. Then I'm going to have him do some muscle energy. So go ahead and push your shoulder forward against me. Enough that he's engaging those paraspinals, notably above the level, and relax. And then I can readjust to the plane a little bit more. Then I'm going to have him try to push the hip backwards. Okay, so push your hip backwards, okay? Now that helps get that lower pole, engaging those muscles. Relax. Tighten it up a little bit further. Now both at the same time. And relax. Okay, and then I can do my thrust. So again, my thrust is a little bit of motion from up here, a little bit of motion from here simultaneously. So I have a little bit of this kind of motion like this right here. So that way I can just do with one arm or just with one arm this way, but then you have to do a lot more force to be able to get it. If you make those forces meet in the middle, you have to have very little thrust to be able to get it exact. Okay, now I'm going to be showing a lumbar roll for a non-neutral lesion. So again, we're always have the rotated side up, and so I have this right side up, which means if it's non-neutral, it's rotated right side, then right is the name of our dysfunction. Okay, I'm going to be kind of monitoring, so let me just see if I feel anything that feels non-neutrally here. Okay, he doesn't have anything specific, so I'm just going to be kind of showing it in the case of doing like an L3 dysfunction right here. Okay, so saying that L3 is rotated right side bent right. So first I'm going to take his legs, I'm going to bring him up a little bit past neutral, then I'm going to be taking his feet and I'm going to be bringing it down, side bending this area here. Okay, so it's rotated right side bent right, so this is side bending the lower pole to the left. Okay, that helps just lock out the myofascia a little bit there, straighten your bottom leg out for me. Okay, and then I'm going to tuck him behind over here. Now also I have him kind of close to me so I don't have to hurt my back while treating his. At the same time, sometimes that gives people a feeling like they're going to fall off the table. Reassure them. I always tell people I have a no fall guarantee. If you're working with me, definitely don't let anybody fall because that breaks my guarantee. But sometimes I also just make sure that I'm always standing just right next to the table. My leg, my hip is right against the edge of the table, so they have to get through me if they're going to kind of fall off. Okay, I'm going to be switching my hand over here. So now I'm getting, with my cephalad hand, I'm grabbing his arm over here, grab my shoulder, okay? And now I can get above his elbow. Okay, so before with neutral, we had to take a step up. Now I'm going to take a step down. Relax your arm here, relax. Okay, so I'm taking a step down. So I'm side bending him more to the left, right over here, because again, it was rotated and side bent left. And then I'm going to step up with it right over here, which is again, going to rotate it more towards the left as well. So now I have it more set up for that non-neutral. Okay, grab your forearm and grab your forearm. I'm going to come through right here, relax your arm here, get him set up right over here and here. Now sometimes I find that I need to get a little bit extra leverage as I'm doing this on the lower pole. So one thing that I can do with non-neutrals is sometimes I'll take my leg and I will put it and hook it in this area that he has where his leg's already folded right here. And that lets me kind of jump start the kickstand a little bit or jump start the motorcycle a little bit. Sometimes I even let the leg dangle off the table and I kind of just, right now I'm just standing on one leg, resting my other leg kind of in the groove of his leg right over here. Okay, but I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. So I'm going to have him go ahead and try to push the upper pole here. So just push your shoulder towards me, making sure he's pushing hard enough. I feel the paraspinals firing right over here. And relax. Take it up the slack a little bit. Now go ahead and try to push your hip back against me here. And relax. Taking up the slack, and now both at the same time. And relax. Okay, and then we do our thrust. Okay, and so that's what we would do for a non-neutral lumbar roll. All right, now I'm going to show how to do the ligaments articular strain technique for the iliolumbar ligament. So I consider this to be one of the very high yield areas of the low back. A lot of times there is a lot of dysfunction of that iliolumbar ligament. For a quick anatomy review, so that iliolumbar ligament branches off of L4 and L5's transverse process and comes down and attaches to the superior and anterior lip of the iliac crest right over here. And so it kind of courses down in this kind of relative direction right over here. The best way to kind of feel the tension on it is to have them flex the knees up towards the hips. So go ahead and flex the knees up towards the hips as much as possible there. Okay, and that helps just kind of tighten that fascia and puts a lot of tension on the ligament. Okay, very often what I will do is I'll rest my hand on the iliac crest, and then where my thumb naturally wants to kind of fall is typically around the PSIS. Then I walk myself over a little bit just onto the edge of that, and that's where I can usually find that tip part of the iliolumbar ligament. I'm going to switch my hands here just so you can see a little bit better where I'm going to be kind of pushing. Okay, so I have my hand right over here. I'm on top of the iliac crest, right where that iliolumbar ligament is. Is that bothering you at all? No. Okay. And so when I do this, I'm going to be putting a vector from here, okay, on the top of the iliac crest. I'm going to be directing it towards the pubic symphysis on the front of the pelvis. And so I'm going to be just leaning in. Sometimes if it's a bigger person and just to spare my thumb, I'll reinforce over my thumb IP just with my other thumb right here so that I don't have to put as much stress across myself. So I hope that you can kind of see me doing that like this here. And then I'm just doing it until I feel it kind of softens, relaxes, releases underneath my finger. So that's ligamentous articular strain.